Guilty Gear Strive is right now one of the more popular fighting games out there. Despite that, I still think it deserves more attention than it gets. But I'm not gonna lie, I am extremely biased because I love the game. Even though I'm relatively new to it, as I have only 50 hours of gameplay, but they have been very nice 50 hours. But who am I to say what it deserves and doesn't? Well, let me explain. Like a lot of you, I come from a variety of RPG, MMO, single player, multiplayer and competitive games. When I play single player games, I enjoy it thoroughly, but there are only so many games that come out in a year to fulfill that story-driven narrative and satisfying gameplay itch. With other RPG and MMO games, there are little to none of them that respect your time, as they are often very grindy. And who can or even wants to put copious amounts of time to grind something like it is a second job? I'm looking at you, Path of Exile and Lost Ark. Multitude of team-centric multiplayer games have so many elements that are out of your control. Inting bot lane in League of Legends, or griefing teammates whom you waste in-game resources to help out in Valorant, for them to just die in the first 10 seconds of the round. Additionally, the matches are 30 minutes long on average, and if you add the time it takes to find a match and the character selection or the pre-match preparation, it becomes even longer. Call of Duty and Fortnite have pretty good things to offer, but only if you like shooters and are fine with occasional hackers in your games. But what if I told you that fighting games like Guilty Gear Strive fulfill many of the same needs and wants for a game, and in multiple instances it executes on them even better? Let's start with the most important, the gameplay. On the surface, it does not seem that there is much depth to it, but let me put this false perception to rest, as in the beginning I saw it in the same way and was proven wrong. You just have to mash buttons and that's it, is what I thought initially. However, every move, ability and skill has their own purpose, which can change based on playstyle and what you can chain into each other. For example, Guilty Gear Strive has a mechanic called Roman cancels. As the game's website puts it, as the name implies, a Roman cancel allows you to cancel your character's move. You can use it in many situations to get different benefits as you make your next move, in exchange for using meter. Instead of cancelling one of your moves, you can slow the time just for a moment to disrupt the enemy's flow or barrage of attacks and slip in yours, which could turn the tables of the battle around. Also, pulling off combos and reading the opponent moves while having responsive and fast gameplay is not only fun, but rewarding to use. The game gives the player a lot of fundamental tools, along with what a specific character might add to it. Listing all the potential mechanics and how they can be used in this video would make it too long, so I'll stop here and move on to the characters. The characters are the blessing of the game, as they are incredibly fun, creative, and unique. In most games, there's a guy fighting for the country, an outlaw or a wanderer, an assassin, a guy with a sword, another guy with a sword. Even other fighting games have just characters who kick and punch in different ways. However, Guilty Gear has a lot more to offer. Well, it also has the regular tropes, but even then, they have an interesting spin added to them. For example, the character who I play the most, Leo Whitefang, he has lion themes, 2 swords, nothing too spectacular. But he is most dangerous when showing his back. Why would he show his back in a battle? Well, the reason for the back turn stance is that he suffers from survivor's guilt, being a king, so he fights with the intent to die. That's why his gameplay is so aggressive, and he is at his strongest when facing away from his problems. So much personality, lore and individuality packed into his gameplay. They could have just given him a short backstory on the webpage and been done with it, but no, his essence is given through his gameplay and the theme song. Surprisingly, he's one of the least unique characters in the game. There's Potemkin, who likes breaking spines, I guess. Faust, who just throws random stuff and has very eccentric abilities. Nagoriyuki, a vampire samurai. How badass is that? If he uses too many special abilities, he will become enraged and loses a lot of health with time, while dealing more damage. And these are just a selected few. Despite the characters having a lot of personality, the story itself is just meh. It has its moments, and seeing the characters interact with each other is fun, but in terms of the quality of the narrative itself, it leaves so much room to desire. Even though the story-driven narrative is not what you come for when playing fighting games, I would still like to have an actual reasonable and somewhat grounded story. but I guess being over the top is Guilty Gear's thing. The game is also 1v1, which means when you lose, it happens most likely because of you or the opponent's character is overpowered. The fact that it is a 1v1 game, it leaves out all the aspects that are out of your control, which in most competitive games are your teammates. So it is just you and the enemy. All it comes down to is who is more skilled and who understands the matchup better. Let's also not forget the fact that a single round is 90 seconds, and there can only be 3 rounds altogether unless you double KO. And you probably will not use up all of the 90 seconds. That means you can just jump into the game, have a few 3-minute matches, and go on about your day. The amount of fun you can get in that time frame is absolutely crazy. I won my first game! Fuck yeah, bro! Nevertheless, a new fighting game release or even existing ones do not pull the same amount of players and audience as most other competitive multiplayer game genres. This got me scratching my head. How can a game as good as Guilty Gear Strive not get as much attention as a racing game like Trackmania, not to mention games like Fortnite and Hearthstone? I thought it might be a problem with exposure and marketing, but gamer YouTuber Giant Video Game Donkey has made a relatively successful video about the game. And Penguin Zero, aka Moist Critical, has talked about the game and even has an esports team for it. Also, the trend of trying to do the Jackal pose, which originated from Guilty Gear Strive, was a thing for a while. And so, despite all of that, the game is still in its obscurity among the general gaming population. Though it is not just Guilty Gear Strive, but most fighting games. In that case, have fighting games run its course and are becoming irrelevant? Only few genres can actually rival the age of the fighting game genre, but one of them, which actually surpasses it, are the platformer games. These games do not have much retaining players, but the initial popularity of Hollow Knight, Celeste and Cuphead is undeniable. In that case, what is the crucial aspect that keeps people away from fighting games? Well, I think there are 2 of them. The first is perception. When I ask my friends why don't they play fighting games and why don't they want to try even, some said they have played it in the past and did not enjoy it. Fair enough, but the majority said that they think that fighting games are too hard and they don't want to be stomped on. They judge the games without even playing it because of the general consensus of the past conventions, that the fighting games are hard. Well, most of my friends have played League of Legends, which is arguably also a difficult game. At least barrier for entry is steep. So in that case it feels contradictory and wrong reasoning altogether. I think they think that they don't want to play it because it's difficult, but the actual reasoning is different. And this brings me to my second point, that fighting games do not teach you the game well enough or in ways that most players are used to. Now this might be the key answer to the question. Fighting games tell you all about the mechanics. For example, this character has these different abilities and moves. Now you know them. Let's say you even remember them. Time to go into an online match. Now what? And this is the problem. This moment is the problem. You know them, but when to use them? What moves complement each other? Why does one enemy character seem to be able to counteract this move all the time, but the others do not? If you know about the move, it does not mean you are able to consistently use it, as you have small time frames to press buttons correctly. Why didn't it go off? Did you press it wrong, or you were not fast enough? All of this is actually learnable and trainable with experience, but who wants to go through countless losses to be able to play the game? Not to play the game well, but to just play it. The fact that this is a 1v1 puts all the pressure on you, which leads to even more frustration because the goal of the game is to win. When you are unable to achieve the goal for the major portion of the beginner experience, how can you not get unmotivated? To truly enjoy the game, you have to change your mentality from focusing on winning to learning and actively train more difficult mechanics. That is a lot of prerequisites to expect from a casual player in the landscape of games that give more natural initial experiences. Nevertheless, I still believe that if you do invest more at the beginning, you'll get an experience that little to no game genres can rival. The amount of adrenaline, dopamine, and satisfaction you get when you do pull off the things you intend to and are able to read the opponent like a book is an experience worth going through. Also, the wins become beyond rewarding at some point. So if you have not, I encourage you to try Guilty Gear Strive, and maybe if the themes of the game do not match your personal taste, try something else, because fighting games deserve so much more recognition than they get. Please hit the like button, share, comment down below, leave a like, and subscribe. See ya.